Now, this is going to be an interesting session because it's very much, it's not too often that as a Kairos group that we have people from so many different regions. And so here's a real opportunity to share experiences and to talk about what works and what doesn't work. And I mentioned this last night that I was an AKT trainer, and that's very much the format that we follow in AKT training. It's the first thing we do is we sort of say, well, look, this is what the manual says. What do you do? And quite often it's different to the manual for a whole lot of different reasons. And then we look at why it's different. And sometimes, I don't know if you remember the story in one of the talks where, you know, Mum sort of cuts a bit off the bacon or the ham or something, and so that gets passed on from generation to generation. And they say, well, where was the beginning of this story? Where did this business of cutting a bit off the ham start? And it, you know, works out, oh, it was because, you know, Grandma had a pot that wasn't big enough and she cut a bit off the ham, and so the legend continues. And that's the risk that we face in Kairos, of course, is that leaders, you know, it gets back to my obedience talk of last night, they think, oh, if we just change this, it'll be better, you know? And then the next leader comes in and he looks at what the previous leader did and says, oh yeah, that's right, we'll do it that way. And then he has a good idea and says, oh, but if we change that, it'll be even better. And so we go on. And so then, you know, inevitably we have an AKT and everyone's up in arms when they get told, well, you can't do it that way. And of course we, as I said earlier, we don't make that mistake of saying you can't do it that way. We investigate why you're doing it that way. And so that's the opportunity we have with us this morning, is to find out what works for you, what doesn't work, why doesn't it work, or why does it work. And so I think what have we got up here at the moment? We haven't started yet, so we'll put the, whoops, lost my cheat sheet. Yeah, so what does a successful KI regional committee look like? And I suppose the obvious question then is to feed back to you, or if you can feed back to the group, it's not feeding back to me, but feed back to the group, how is your regional committee going? Is it struggling because you haven't, you know, the leaders, previous leaders haven't been willing to come on board and do their 3 years and share their experience? Is it because there's been those that are there now have claimed ownership of it, if you like, and so there hasn't been any change, any turnover in the regional committee as it should occur to make sure that people don't burn out or get fresh ideas? What is the health of your regional committee? Who, of all of you here, who is currently on a regional committee? Okay, so we've got plenty of opportunity then to feed back. So I'll start. Oh, look, I'll start from home territory, because I know I can refer to Hugo and know that the regional committee he's from. But Hugo, can you give us just a brief, not outline, but a brief summary of how your regional committee, what are its challenges, how is it going, and that sort of thing? And
do I need a microphone?
well, this session's being recorded, so it's probably a good idea if you do that, and then they can hear it on the record.
There's a hand mic.
Oh, there's a hand mic coming. Look at that. Thanks, Fern.
Hi everybody, I've met many of you but not all. I'm Hugo Hopton and I'm the chair of the Kairos Mobilong Regional Committee. And Mobilong Prison is 75 kilometres east of Adelaide up the freeway, so about an hour's drive for many of us participating there. When I joined Kairos, I'd gone on a couple of short courses, then got invited onto the committee. It's probably a usual path for many of us. And the committee I joined was dysfunctional. In fact, there was outright and quite strong arguments across the table and personal attacks. And then our chair had a health turn and was unable to continue, and I was asked to take over and chair the committee. So it was a bit of a ragtag group at the time. But we were really blessed with a couple of people on the committee who were very committed to running Kairos in the way of the manual, and the conflict had come from people wanting to run Kairos in a way that wasn't consistent with the manual. And the key point for us was forming prayer and share groups inside prison. So that was really the detonation point. So we had a short course, and we were blessed to find some people on that short course who were willing to put their hands up and join the committee. So there was a total renewal. So probably about 3 years on, there's only one member of that past committee, or two with me, that remain, and we have a limit of 10. So at the moment, we seem to be very blessed. We rely on God a lot. We pray a lot, and we also we try and think as big as we hope God might think about the Kairos prison ministry. And so we've actually done a little plan for ourselves, a strategic plan. We've assigned responsibilities to individuals. We're very strong on succession, so we've got our annual general meeting next week, and my time is up as chair, but KPMA has extended the term from 3 years to 5 years for chairs, and we're going to have a discussion about whether we agree with that or not. Because if I hang around 2 more years, who's going to take over? Who's going to want to do a 5-year gig following me? But if it's a 1, 2 or 3 year gig, we might get the next chair to come in and take it on. Yeah. So there are some things we need to debate inside the committee. Our challenges, the main challenge is finding leaders. We're running 2 short courses a year, and so if you've got someone on the leadership path, you need to get them into some of the coordination roles, and then into the observing leader role, and then into the leader. And that means they really need to do a run of short courses, one after another. And the people we're talking about have got families, young families, and they're working. So how can they give up 2 weeks a year plus all the trainings for 2 or 3 years to get into leader? So we think there's a structural problem in, and I look to the Emmaus Walks, for example, to say they always have 3 advising leaders or observing leaders, and so each short course you've got a pool forming of your potential leaders rather than just one observing leader, one leader. So that's probably our main challenge at the moment, is finding the leader for the June short course next year. And other than that, we have an election coming up on Wednesday night, and just means we've got more people wanting to be on the committee than there are places for. So there's good, healthy signs. Thanks, Rob.
Would you like to pass the microphone on to John?
John.
Good morning. What I can say is that being on the board, it's refreshing to see that as a collective there's a lot of recognition of the issues that are facing Kairos, and not just the wonderful simplicity of running these programs, which is obviously the basis of everything that we do, and recognise that that's the essence of what Kairos is, but also a recognition of the problems that as an organisation we've faced in the past, and genuinely trying to understand what those concerns are, genuinely trying to discuss and come up with solutions by engaging all of the regional areas. But most importantly is putting plans in motion, having understood what those issues are, to make sure that we have got a direction going forward. And leadership is one of the big ones at the moment. And I think what we have to do at all levels, both national, state and regionals, is to make sure that we've got that apprentice leadership ready to come through, not just get to the point where you're into your 3 or 5 year term and then say, righto, people, put your hands up, who's next? But to make sure we're mentoring that person well in advance, such that when the term is ready to expire, that person's not only experienced, but has a good understanding of what's involved and can step into that leadership position very simply and easily. So, yep, understand leadership is a big one at the moment, and I think that strategy is what we need to adopt at all levels, just to make sure that that apprentice is coming through to take over and not have any gaps or shortfalls or put undue stress on previous leadership to extend terms, etc. So I think that's a great mechanism for us in going forward.
Thanks, John. And both Hugo and John have touched on that leadership issue, and that's obviously then, if you take it right back, it's about volunteers. So someone from another regional committee, would you like to just add to that discussion on leadership and how you go about that succession planning, or if you're not going about it, the reasons why it's not happening for your regional committee? So who's willing to? Yeah, Jeff?
I'm from southern Queensland region, based in Toowoomba, but the region's much bigger than that. We have not been able to run any courses for 3 or 4 years because of the COVID and then the change in policy in the prison. So it's very, very difficult to arouse interest with people. I've been treasurer since we were an ad hoc committee, so I'm probably illegal. And I was doing secretary as well, but we've got a secretary. And we've changed chairman, but I think we've all been more than 3 years in those positions. And we've now got a music director, which is Alan Skirman. So we're really well off there in that department. But when we look at the handbook, I think we're supposed to have about 10 with all different portfolios. And so we don't have that. We don't meet very often because we have no business. I pay $50 to Kairos every month, and that's about the only transaction on the books. What else? We do want to attract people from other churches. So, yeah, we've got 3 churches involved. And 2, like when the ladies' team was being formed, that had a much wider coverage of people from different places. But the problem is it's very difficult to inspire interest when we're not doing it, we can't get in or run any short courses.
So then coming out of that conversation, the obvious question is, and going back to what Vern presented yesterday afternoon, was on those new ideas of, it comes down to focusing our recruitment, if you like, or our promotion in a way that is different to what we've done in the past. If what we've done in the past isn't giving us the results that we need, then clearly God is saying something to us. So what Vern presented yesterday was some ideas as to some new ideas as to how we could change the way we go about looking for volunteers. And I'm sure that Tony, when he speaks today, I think later on today, he'll have some more to add to that. But I think it is important to recognise when something's not working, what are we doing? What needs to change? And that's the resource that God's provided here today, is to let's, as Jeff has just said, he's probably outlined a situation which is common to several regions at the moment as a result of the problems that we've experienced through COVID. But where do we go from here? Yep, Cole.
Jeff, could I just encourage you and your committee out there, going back to the 1999, we did Barallan, And as a result of that, the State Chaplaincy Board were one of the entities that canned Kairos, and we couldn't get in. We had to wait 10 years. So I identify exactly with you that you can't get in anywhere. We persisted with 10 years of still meeting, and I just want to encourage you, don't give up. Keep up the good faith that one day the door will open. And we owe a debt of gratitude, I know, in the southeast corner to Kairos Outside Ladies, because it was only through the outside program going ahead in leaps and bounds in southeast Queensland that as a result there were quite a number of prison chaplains' wives who got caught up in KO and then said to their husbands, hey, well, what's the matter with Kairos? And then gradually the weight of that on the chaplaincy board, when one or two people died, I hate to say it, but that's what happened, that finally things changed. And Paul understands the history then, he's nodding his head. So I just want to encourage you, keep the good faith, keep gathering together. Maybe if blokes can team in with Wakol and say, hey, Wakol, we've got a couple of blokes up here that are just busting to get on team. It would keep us alive. It would breathe a bit of life into us. Can we get these blokes onto team down there? And I don't know, that's just a thought off the top of my head.
Well, yes, they have approached us at Wolston. We have been approached in past years. This is when Wolston was still going at the end of the year. But I was asked, but I had other commitments at that time and I couldn't go. But yeah, that would be a solution or help. Yes.
So Queensland, up until pre-COVID, we had operating in 4 prisons. We had Lotus Glen, which was established during COVID. We had Arthur Gorrie, and we had Gatton, southeast Queensland. They have since come back from privately run prisons to state-run prisons. Now, the state prison authority, the correctional centres, have seen fit that we can't get back in anywhere until 2023, till next year. Now, we're working on it, and we do have cross-pollination, if you like. When we do go into Wolston, we will be going into Wolston at Christmas time, and there are people from southeast Queensland that are on the team. So there have been some, I wouldn't say problems, but some attitudes of saying, because Queensland is away from New South Wales, and there have been attitudes of saying, well, we've always done it this way. So sometimes we're a bit slow to follow the rule book. But I think that's fair for everybody to say. But I can tell you Queensland haven't given up, and we are approaching. We've got feelers out in 3 prisons at the moment, 3 new prisons, besides the ones that we hope to get in for. But then we run up against the problem where Wakol is the hub of prisons. We have 4 to 5 prisons there. We can't get a regional committee for each prison. It's impossible. So we need to come back to the board and we need to say, hey, let's have one regional committee to do 2 prisons at least. Anyway, that's for the future. But Queensland, at the moment, I've got to say, we're not doing very much. We're having our regular meetings and we still have enthusiasm there, but because we can't go into the jails at the moment, people are saying, well, you know, we're holding Kairos gatherings on a regular basis. The ladies do their swap groups and they've actually run 2 KIs this year. So they're going fine. But KI is sort of, it's not at a standstill, but it's marking time at the moment until we can get back into prisons.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And I'm going to call on my co-presenter here because he's got something to say.
We had a question. The ladies.
I was just going to say, Jeff. Yep. One of the things that came to mind as you were talking about you can't get in because of you've been locked out and because of COVID and all of the other stuff that's gone on, was why not, and then Brian actually said it, Why not gather your people, the ones that have been on the team before? Why not gather them and have a barbecue? Like, just have a barbecue. Gather the people that have been on a previous team before as a way of keeping the enthusiasm alive. You're just getting together, but what you're actually doing is you're doing more than that. You're building team across not a short course, but across a community. You're actually giving leadership back into that space, saying we're not doing nothing, we're coming together, this is just a fun day, we're going to have some fun, we're going to have a barbecue, come the end of it, we're going to stand together in agreement because our hearts are already in unity, and we're going to pray. And we're going to expect that the prison that has been blocked off, closed, is going to be turned around, and there will be favour, because God's word says, and hello, we all rely on the Holy Spirit, God's word says, I'll make a way in the desert where there is no way.
Okay. I think we've got a story over here. I'm just going to... You, my chair's right. Okay. Rob, you could talk to exactly what we've been hearing on what Parklea is actually doing. Now, Parklea has not been in for as long as COVID, of course, but it's had an incredible change of management, not the top management, but middle management, which is where we operate in the prison. And so that trying to get a conversation actually going to say, hey, can we come in and start journeying? We've had meetings and everybody is very positive about going in with the management. Management says, come in. But that's where it stops.
We had a meeting with the governor of the prison a couple of months ago, and that was the first time we've spoken to them in 3 years. But it was a very good, he was very positive. But just this morning I got an email saying that the new girl who's looking after the repeat, she's actually in charge of the repeat repeating activist people, yeah. And that's her apartment, but she actually looks after Kairos now, which is in our prison, which is interesting. But she's actually now got a meeting coming up the next week or so with the deputy governor. So, and they're all very keen for us to come in back in. So we'll be open, and they're trying to fix up our security system, because we've got by far the worst security system. It's effectively at the moment they're asking us to employ for a job there. Sorry, but just another quick thing we've done. What we've done is we've taken the manual very seriously. We are obedient to it. But what we have done in the last 3 years or about 4 years ago, in 2018 a new version of Ezra came out, and it was the year I was actually leading the course, and that was actually in that Ezra thing. There was a whole lot of stuff about the 20% rule first came out, and I think I know so many people don't know about the 20% rule and don't know how important it is. But it basically says you do not need to have run a 4th day course. To do a 4th day program, you can go and join Kairos, and you can have a mentor in your team. We've had probably 15 of the last 15 people who have joined our team. In that time, one of them has done the 4th day course. So it's a huge issue for us, and something I've been really pushing to say this is a new way for us to think. We don't have to go down this track. We don't talk against it, but we don't have to do it. And it's in the manual. I've got I did a whole lot of downloads off my Ezra document and made up a Word document with all the downloads explaining why. And the reasons are because there's so many churches now in America don't run 4th day. Don't run the system and don't understand it and don't support it. And I've actually never been in a church which has actually supported a 4th day program, and I've been in 4 or 5 churches. So, but I was actually another
could
suggestion.
you possibly relay to everybody here, not the barbecue that we're running,
Yeah.
but we have a weekly or 2 weekly
Yeah.
prayer Zoom session.
every on the last day of the last day we were in the prison, we were trying to do a journey night, and we actually we all met at the prison. We weren't allowed in, so about 3 years ago, and so we actually stayed outside the prison, and we actually had a prayer time there together as a team there for about half an hour or an hour. It went for a long time actually, and we just prayed for our situation, because we knew it was a dire situation, and we'd been locked out. And so then we decided then that every second Tuesday on the time we normally go in, that we have a prayer time. So we have a Zoom prayer time. We're still doing it. We had one just 2 days ago, and so we have this last week. And so every fortnight we have a prayer Zoom time, and it's about praying for ourselves, praying for our team, and praying for the prisoners, praying for the ministry. And in fact, we've got about 5 of our members got cancer. One of them just died, who actually a few weeks ago. We actually journeyed with him right through this whole time. Another guy's he's in palliative care at the moment, and one of our guys in our team. So we're going through a lot of suffering, but we're actually we're with each other, supporting it. So that I think is actually a really good thing.
Could I just pick up on something that you said there, Rob? What is the heart of Kairos? Prayer and share. And Rob's just reminded us of how powerful prayer and share is, why it is the heart of Kairos. So if things are not working out the way you would hope that they work out, how's your prayer and share going? Are all your committee in prayer and share groups? Are they being obedient to that fundamental of recognising how God empowers us? Prayer and share. So if you don't take anything else away from this session except to reflect on how obedient are you to the Kairos requirement that we're all in prayer and share groups. I think, Rob, thank you for reminding us of that and how powerful it is when we do it. And yeah, and perhaps, that's something to reflect on.
Can I say one more thing? Sorry.
Back to you, John.
I realised actually a few weeks ago that a huge area we always talk about churches, and that's where we get our people from. And in fact, I've got a lot of friends who I meet, actually through our sports centre, but we have people I meet who are through Christian schools. And Christian schools are a big thing in Australia and a big thing in Sydney, and there's a lot of Christian schools around. So they're great, and they're very supportive of Christianity. So I think they should be very supportive of Kairos. So I'm actually going back. Well, we have talked about it before a little bit, but I'm going to go back and push it a lot more to say, why don't we really target the schools? The big problem with schools is that they work 10, 40 weeks a year, but it's actually we actually normally run our Kairos courses on those times. So I'm going to suggest actually we think about running a course during school holiday time, like right now, just a couple of weeks ago in September or October or April, May, and then really try to find some teachers, because teachers are fantastic and are fantastic people to be in Kairos, but we don't see hardly any of them. We probably don't see any of them, and they're a great group of people, and the Christian teachers, people who give their lives into Christian schools are often committed. They are very committed to their faith and to Christianity. So that's just a suggestion, a whole new thing which I've never had a discussion about before. Somebody over here?
Tony.
Well, I don't have a question as such, but I'm the chair of St Heliers Regional Committee, and St Heliers is a small minimum security jail just north of Muswellbrook. And Muswellbrook's in the Upper Hunter Valley of New South Wales. And I've been the chair there probably the last 3 years, mainly because COVID came along, and I've been stuck with the position. But not that that's been a burden either, but we, as a committee, we've met regularly through that period just to keep up with events. And we actually had a short course all ready to go when the COVID hit. Unfortunately, most of the team either have moved away or died or retired, so we've had to restart it all over again. But we've got a short course coming up early November, and I'm part of the team that's getting ready for that. But it's a real struggle with recruitment at the moment. We've had to call on people from Sydney and that to come up and make up the team. But at least we've got a team going, we've got things moving, and that's a good positive step. That's about it.
So what I pick up on that is that even though you have a core of willing volunteers, you don't have the numbers to field a short course, and so a number of regions have said, well, we're not doing anything at the moment. We'll have a few volunteers come up and help you with the short course, and then we'll retire and you follow through with your core on the journey program.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's
what,
nice.
But at least it's going, and that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully by doing that, we'll be able to attract more volunteers and get going as a full group again, because it was really going well up till just prior to COVID. But anyway, I'm not blaming COVID for everything. It's a lot of blokes were getting towards the end of their time in any case as far as working for Kairos. Yeah, they were all looking, a few of them were looking toward to retirement, but we simply couldn't attract anyone while things weren't going. That was the main problem.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Behind you?
Yeah, in the bigger picture, one of the things that I was involved in was cultural change and change in organisations. And the critical thing is top-level management support. It's about 60% of any change. And if the manager isn't sitting in the front row and saying to the rest of their team, I'm supporting this, you're really pushing uphill. And it seems to me that what we're doing here is we're all going we're dispersed, we go to one jail, one at a time, and what we're not doing is getting a critical mass where and this is where I think the board and the central, if they could put together a package and go to the managers of all the jails and basically say, this is what Kairos is going to do for you, that would help all the regions, because then they're wasting a lot of energy trying to get in. And the thing that we find in Canberra about running the short courses is that there's so much uncertainty about when it's going to be run. Is it May? Is it August? When do we start training? We get halfway through training and then it's delayed 6 months and all this sort of thing. And it's because we haven't got that top level cover that's needed. So I would put the challenge to the Kairos board and say, really what they need to do is somehow get that top cover, put the umbrella over the rest of all the regions and give them the structure they need so that when they do go into a jail, the manager says, okay, I know what Kairos is, I support it, and as soon as you do that, all the middle managers and everyone will just step into line because they're not going to want to go against the manager. So the critical person is that person at the top. So that's just an observation, but I think it's something that everyone's saying that pushing uphill from the bottom up is a really hard way to go.
You have a really good tool in your possession already, and that is the on-site agreement. Who uses that? Okay, because actually you should. But anyway, why I'm saying that is that the on-site agreement is in the face of the governor. He's reading that, he knows what's going on, you've had face-to-face meetings with him, And that's, once he commits to it, he'll stay with it. So it's a very good tool, rather than just having a nice coffee day and going in and saying, oh, hi, we'd like to run a Kairos here sometime. But anyway, you need to go through the chaplains, though. You have to build relationships with your chaplains. Maybe we click to the next one.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah.